Guion began to work for the sorceress. She had to live in the sorceress's house far away from her mother and brother. Gwyn's room was a cave outside the house where the sorceress mixed her potions above a fire. Gwion slept on a bed of moss next to the pots and cauldrons, but although weeks passed, the sorceress didn't let her make anything, not one potion. The only task Gwion was allowed to do was stir the pot and stoke the fire with wood. Chapter 7, Dad. I stand there for an age. The sun is low by the time I decide to finish cycling home. Orange and purple light streaks across the sky. I switch on my front and back bike lights. It will be dark under the cover of trees further down the towpath. I cycle slowly, not wanting to be home quite yet. Only a few people at school have my number, Jasmine and Aisha, and Sophie might have written it down when I told it to Aisha this afternoon. It's not Jasmine's number, I know that. Could it be one of the others? Maybe Aisha and Sophie were just pretending to want to come and see Newt, but they really wanted my number to send that message. Wind rustles the branches around me and sends fresh leaves tumbling to the ground. I glance over my shoulder, feeling like I'm being watched, but there's no one there. I realise that anyone in the row behind me could have heard me say my phone number too. Reaching Newt, I slow down. I spot Mum in the window watering the crocus bulbs she planted. Mum's favourite flowers. At one point she even wanted to paint Newt purple and rename her crocus, but we all objected. We love Newt and her bright green colour. At least I used to love Newt. Ari and Bryn sit side by side on the roof of the boat, dangling their legs off the side, each holding a fishing net. "Look what I caught," says Ari as I stop my bike. She lifts up a pikefish by the tail from the bucket beside her and dangles it in the air. "I caught a gudgeon," says Bryn. "Look, you can tell by its huge head." "Well done, you two," I say. "But remember what Mum said. You have to let them go before you come inside. No keeping them in buckets." "I only wanted to watch it for a while," says Bryn. "I know," I say. "Last time they decided to catch fish, they left a bucket full of them on the deck. Mum had been hanging the washing on the line on the roof and stepped in it. Fish went everywhere." I push my bike up the plank and lock it to everyone else's on the front deck. "Hi," I say, pushing open the door and stepping inside. Enzo is reading a book on his stomach in the centre of the living room next to Willow. I can just see his nose under his wild dark curls. Willow barks hi at me and Enzo raises his head and waves before returning to his book. Willow bounds towards me. I kneel and squeeze her while she gives me sloppy kisses. She smells of forest honey. Somehow, Willow always knows when I need extra attention. I pat her head and stroke her shaggy eyebrows and the long, wiry hair under her jaw. "Hi, darling," Mum looks up from the stove. "How was school?" "Fine," I say, and swing my backpack down. It was awful. "Is it getting any easier?" "A bit," I say. It's getting worse. I try to steer my thoughts away from the phone in my pocket, but it's like I can feel it getting heavier and heavier, weighing me down. "You know, I'm so proud of you starting a new school all by yourself," Mum says, coming over to kiss my forehead. Her hands are covered in breadcrumbs and she wipes them on her apron. I wish she wasn't being so nice to me right now. I swallow and almost spill everything to her about the text message. Almost. Because every time I think about opening my mouth, I can't find the words. They get stuck in the back of my throat, and then the longer I think about it, the harder it is to say them aloud. "It's going to freeze tonight," says Mum, who's now back at the stove and hasn't noticed that anything is wrong. "Better salt the planks and the deck." We all have jobs on the boat to make sure that everything gets done. One of mine is to make sure the deck is clear and not slippery. I grab the salt bucket. As I step out on the deck, my phone pings. I reach into my pocket and pull it out. New message. I open it. "Is that why your dad doesn't live with you? He couldn't face the stinky boat?" I drop the salt bucket and it topples over. I look around, my heart quickening as if the person sending the messages could be nearby somewhere. The evening air is quiet and still. My stomach lurches and I feel sick. The words cut through me. I turn and run back inside, leaving the salt in a pile on the deck. I throw myself down on my bed and take deep breaths, staring up at the wooden slats on the ceiling. How would anyone know about Dad? I know I should tell Mum about this. What's stopping me? She'll be so upset. She's fiercely protective of our boat life. I roll onto my side and imagine her storming up to school and making a big fuss. That's the last thing I want. I need time to figure out who it is by myself. But there's another thought that keeps creeping in, even though I'm trying to push it away. What if Dad didn't want to live on a boat? What if that's the reason he left? Green watched and listened and picked up things when she could, desperately trying to learn how to make the potion to save her brother. At night, she sneaked into the sorceress's study and read the potion lists and the spells. She stared into the glimmering, glistening jars, some full of thick, gloopy substances, and some so thin you could almost see through them into the other worlds. One sparkled as dark as a black hole. Chapter 8, Stars. You're quiet again tonight, mi amor, Mum says, checking on me later. I'm just tired, I reply. Enjoying your new book, asks Mum, nodding at my newest edition lying next to me on my bed. A survival guide to the outdoors. It was a present for my birthday. I already knew how to do all the knots in it. I wonder what Sophie or Aisha would think of the book and whether they'd find it weird. I bet neither of them know how to survive outdoors. Come and eat, says Mum. I nod and follow her out to the kitchen. Enzo, Bryn and Aria are already sitting at the table with the safe in front of them. Still haven't figured it out? I ask. Bryn huffs loudly and folds his arms across his chest. We try a different combination every night. Tonight, I try my birthday. The dial is still stiff to turn and numbers click loudly as it spins. I pull on the door, but it doesn't give. I shake my head. Maybe we can track down the original owner or contact the manufacturer, I say. Are there any markings on it? Bryn turns the safe upside down and shakes his head. Just these scratches. I'll keep thinking, I reply. We need to do some detective work. My mind turns back to the text message. I'm going to have to do some detective work on that too. Tonight is a meteor shower, says Mum. Let's go up on the roof with some hot chocolate before bed and watch. We might see some shooting stars. So after dinner, we bring blankets and big cushions up to the roof and huddle up together, each of us clutching a mug of hot chocolate. Willow lies across all our feet. The sky glitters with stars. It's a half moon and there's hardly any light pollution. The boat shakes gently underneath us. Every now and again, a strong breeze bangs the boat against the towpath shoulder. Bryn slides across the slippery roof, pirouetting in his socks. Don't knock over the hot chocolate, says Mum. Can I have a marshmallow, asks Aria. We don't have any marshmallows, Babita, says Mum. She nods at the sky. Let's watch out for the shooting stars. We clutch our warm mugs and crane our necks so that we can stare up at the sky. My neck aches, but I keep staring, determined to see a shooting star. I know what I'd wish for, to find out who the texter is. Those ones look like a marshmallow altogether, says Aria. Mum laughs. You've got marshmallows on the brain. We can't go to bed until we've all seen a comet, says Bryn, looking round at us sternly. That could be a while if you don't look up at the sky, I reply. Do you think Dad's watching it too, asks Aria. Maybe, says Mum. He'll be back on Thursday. You can ring him and ask. There's one, says Enzo. Not fair, says Bryn. I want to see one. Look towards Orion, says Mum. They're coming from over there. For a split second, so brief I might have imagined it, I see a glowing arc of bright light streak across the sky. There! I shout. I saw it, says Bryn. Me too, says Enzo. His signs are lit up by the light of the moon. If I say I saw it, does that mean we have to go to bed, asks Aria. Mum laughs and reaches over and ruffles her hair. Actually, Aria and Bryn, she says, checking her watch, it's definitely your bedtime. Cara always gets to stay up later than me, says Aria, hands on hips. And Enzo gets to go to bed late too, adds Bryn. That's because we're a whole lot older than you. I'm twice your age, I say. Aria pouts. It's gone 9 by the time Mum tucks them into bed and the stars have moved across the sky. Enzo takes my hand in his and squeezes it, the way we always say goodnight to each other before following them inside. I decide to stay on the roof a bit longer by myself. How do I find out who the number belongs to? Lights in the windows of houses twinkle in the distance on the hill. I wonder what it would be like to live in a house. I've never really thought about it before, but right now it would make everything easier. The mystery texter would have nothing to say to me. Mum pokes her head out up on the roof. You okay up here, she asks. Why do we have to live on a boat? I ask quietly. She climbs up and sits down cross-legged next to me. We don't have to, we choose to. But why, I ask? Being on a boat is special. We have the freedom to move if we want. Isn't that brilliant? And there's a beauty in hands-on living, and we get to be part of this wonderful community. Do you think we'll ever live in a house like everyone else, I ask? Well, we don't do something just because everyone else is doing it. Do you want to live in a house? I'm fed up with having to explain to everyone. I trail off, my words catching in the back of my throat. Did something happen at school? Asks Mum. I shake my head. Are you worrying about anything? Mum continues. Is it the work, your new teachers? It's not the work, I reply. We sit in silence for a while. It must be tough not really knowing anyone there. She tries again. I nod my head. I promise you'll make new friends soon. I know it's hard and scary, but I also know that you are capable of handling it. You're strong. She tries to make me feel better, but I feel like more and more of a failure. I'm not strong at all. Why don't you invite someone over next week, she asks. Mum doesn't understand. I sigh. I'm tired of it all. When I'm out jogging and I feel like I can't run anymore, I tell myself, today I can do this, one step at a time. A camino largo, paso corto. That might help you too. What do you think? Asks Mum, cocking her head to the side and staring at me. Her bushy hair falls from behind her ears. I just don't want to talk about it anymore. Okay, I say. She watches me sadly for a moment, then sighs. All right, mi amor. Good night. I nod and she goes back inside. Later, I huddle up in my bed, emotion still welling up inside me. It's cold tonight. The windows are already steamy and frosty. I pull my duvet tightly around me. When Mum comes to check on me, I close my eyes pretending to be asleep. I can feel her standing in the doorway for a few minutes and then she's gone. I open my eyes again, staring into the darkness. I realise it's a tiny bit of me that blames her for all of this. She's the reason we live on a boat. And if Dad left because he didn't want to live on a boat, then that's her fault too. I toss and turn in the little bed, and for the first time ever, my bedroom nook feels too small and cramped, as if it's closing in on me. December the 16th, present day. That night, my worst nightmare came true. Something happened that everyone who's ever lived on a boat dreads. We'd prepared for it with safety checks, alarms and drills, but even though we did everything we were supposed to, we couldn't stop it.